All right, we're going to work through the first couple of questions for each part of this assignment. So on this page, we are practicing dimensional analysis. We are converting 5,400 inches into miles. So the first thing we want to do is take our value of 5,400 inches, and we want to write that so that it looks like a fraction. So we're just going to say over 1. Notice I do not put any units in this denominator. The only unit present is inches, and that is in the numerator. Then we are going to multiply by a fraction that we are going to make up. So we currently have inches present in the numerator, so I am going to choose to put inches in the denominator. Now this wants me to go from inches to miles, but I personally do not know how many inches there are in a mile, but I do know how many inches are in a foot. So I will choose to go from inches to feet. Now, the bigger one, in other words, which is bigger, a unit or a foot or an inch, the bigger one gets the number 1. So between these two units, foot is the bigger unit of measurement. So that means that I am going to write the number 1 next to foot, and then I'm going to ask myself, how many inches does it take to make a foot? So it is going to take 12 inches to make a foot. So I'm going to put the number 12 in the denominator. When you write these fractions, you should always have the number 1 as either your numerator or your denominator. Whichever unit of measurement is the larger of the two, that's where you place the number 1. So at this time, I have inches in the numerator and it is in the denominator, and so those units are going to cancel out. So if I just take 5,400 and divide it by 12, I am going to be left with how many feet this would equate to. But the question is asking me to go from inches to miles, not to feet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to write a second equation, or a second fraction, sorry. So I'm going to multiply so that I cancel out feet. So feet is currently in the numerator. I'm going to write it in the denominator. I do know the relationship of feet and miles because it's represented here on the chart. So I am going to put miles here, and we're going to use an MI for miles. A mile is bigger than a foot, so the number 1 goes with miles, and this tells me 5,280 feet is how many feet it takes to make a mile. So now when I look at my units, I have feet present in the numerator and it is present in the denominator, so feet cancels out, which means that when I complete my calculation, the only unit left is going to be miles, which is what we want the answer to be in. And then it is going to require me to do some math here. So everything that is in the numerator is being multiplied, and everything that is in the denominator is being divided by. So I am going to choose to say 5,400 or 5,400, and I'm going to type in divided by 12, and then I'm also going to divide that by 5,280. So that is going to give me 0.85227, and there are more digits in my calculator, but I'm just going to write down a few of them and call it a day. For this next example, we are going from 16 weeks to seconds. Now, once again, I personally do not know how many seconds there are in a week, so I am going to choose to go from weeks to days and then just kind of stair step my way from there. So turn this into a fraction, no unit in the denominator, it's just the number 1, and then I'm going to multiply that by my first fraction, where I put weeks in the denominator so that it cancels. I'm going to go from weeks to days. The bigger one gets the 1. The bigger one gets the 1, and it takes 7 days to make a week. So now that is going to put my unit as days. So we're going to need to write another fraction here so that we can go from days to hours. A day is bigger. It takes 24 hours to make a day. So now we have canceled out weeks. We have canceled out days. We're going to write another fraction here so that we can go from hours to minutes. And if you happen to know how many seconds there are in an hour, you could absolutely go ahead and write this fraction to go from hours to seconds. Most of my students do not know that conversion, so I'm going to go ahead and go from hours to minutes, and then I will go from minutes to seconds. The bigger one gets the 1. It takes 60 seconds to make a minute. So this is going to tell me that I need to multiply 16 times 7 times 24 and then times 60 times 60. And so that is going to give me 9676800, and my final answer was in seconds. Okay, now we're going to skip down to converting within the metric system. So once again, you are going to be responsible for knowing how the metric units relate to each other. So I will not provide the chart for you during the quiz or the test, but it is here for your convenience on the practice assignment because we are all still just learning. I'm going to do questions 6 and 7. Question number 6, I will do using dimensional analysis. Question number 7, I will practice just moving the decimal. Okay, so for question number 6, it says that we have 87.68 kilograms, and we are going to convert that from kilograms to grams. So I am going to say 87.68. I'm going to turn that into a fraction by putting it over the number 1, and then I am going to multiply that by a second fraction that I'm now going to write. Kilograms is currently in the numerator, so I am going to put it in the denominator so that it will cancel out. I'm going to go from kilograms to grams. The bigger one gets the 1. So you can see here on the image, it shows the largest unit is the one farthest to the left. So that means that kilo, or the prefix K before my grams, is going to be larger than my grams. So the bigger one gets the number 1. How many grams does it take to make a kilogram? Remember, each column is a multiple of 10. So it's going to be 10 to get from kilo to hecto, 100 to get from hecto to deca, and 1,000 to get from deca, or from kilo, sorry, to the gram slot. So we're going to put 1,000 grams in my numerator. So now I am simply going to cancel out my units of kilograms, and I'm left with an answer in grams. So 87.68 times 1,000 gives me 87680, and that is our final answer in grams. So 87,680 grams. All right, now let's look at the second question. It says that I have 218.1 kilometers, and they want me to convert that into meters. Some of you might want to call that a kilometer, and that's fine too. So I am going to go from this kilo column, and I'm going to move to my base column because that's where plain old meters is located. So in order to move from kilo to base, I have to move once, twice, 3 times to the right. So I'm going to take the decimal that is currently in my number, and I'm going to move it 1, 2, 3 times to the right. This means that my decimal is now going to be located here, And any empty spaces that I have, I'm going to fill in with a 0. So when I convert this from from kilometers to meters, this is going to give me 218100 meters. Or we would say 218,100 meters.